kill foals. And these young bachelor herds can often cause traumatic scenes as they kick young foals to death. And they do that because they can't get rid of the stallion of a herd, so they just take it out on whatever they can get a hold of. And this is practice for such a duel. They are practicing for trying to overthrow a stallion with his harem of ladies, and their time will come then to be king, only until the next young bunch of stallions comes through to overthrow them. Again, this is very mild, and they're only working up to a... Yes, we are talking about you, YouTube, but carry on. We would like to see some proper zebra action here. This is half-hearted, fellows. But at least we got to see a little bit of kind of rough and tumble between these two. What's interesting is the tracks left in the road directly ahead of us. And while they've calmed down, we can maybe take a quick look at that, because there is evidence of a commotion unfolding. Look at how smooth the road is up until this point here. And that's where they're really jumping around and kicking and biting. And the telegraph on the sandy pathways that lead us through Djuma tells that story, and actually it's quite interesting. We noticed that there was probably going to be some action from quite far behind us. We had some more sable tracks, waterbuck tracks, and there was a little waterbuck lurking here, spectating the zebra's little punch up. Good, well. What will happen next? Virginia, in Switzerland, and your entire class of students, you are the reason we are turning around, and we're going to go back and see if we can't find you this chameleon again, because your class would like to know if they really can change color. So let's go and find it, and you'll see they certainly can. And they've basically got tiny little cells called chromatophores, and depending on how much kind of liquid, you could say, they pump into those chromatophores, it changes the color of them. And the color that it went to onto the road that you saw earlier was kind of a mottled color, a bit of green, a bit of white, a bit of yellow, a mixed variety of colors to help it blend in. But when they're in the green bushes, they'll become green. So they certainly can change color. Some chameleons have the ability to change more than others. And some can go bright pinks and purples. But the flat-necked chameleon, the chameleon we see here, is usually a greeny, yellowy tinge, and unless it gets really disturbed, and then it'll flare out its throat, which is bright orange. So I'm hoping we get to find it now. It's not too far up this road, and we're going to have our work cut out for us trying to find one of the best camouflage artists in the bush out here. It'll be interesting to see if it's continued in the pathway that it was heading in after we left it. It was looking to cross from right to left. In Cape Town, thank you for sending through some really interesting info on the dwarf chameleons of the Cape. And CJ is lucky enough to count 56 dwarf chameleons. in their garden, and has noticed that when it's very windy weather, the chameleons will move quickly, because I guess that's similar to leaves blowing in the wind and there's a lot of general movement, but when it's still, they don't move that quickly. And I'll agree with you to a point, CJ, but I've also taken very close interest in chameleons and spent a lot of time watching them, and know for a fact that if it's hot in the middle of the day, they will move quickly. Even across roads, when they cross any road, they'll be more inclined to move quickly when the temperature is warm, and that's because they're cold-blooded animals. So what you're saying though, I agree with, but with the wind, but there'll be certain times, even when it's still, that they can move quite quickly. Oh, I'm just trying to remember where exactly we saw the chameleon, and then try and work out if we can't see it again. I think it's just up ahead of us here, yeah. Okay, this is going to be fun, but difficult. So it was just on the road in front of us. I'm going to jump out quickly, and if the search takes too long, then we'll just be able to shout to me and we'll send you back to Jamie's vehicle. So, my thought process is, we saw the chameleon here. I'm guessing it had come out of this bush and then was wanting to head across to the next bush, which is over here. I'm going to check the bigger bush first that it may have retreated back towards, which is this one over here. They are just so difficult to spot. I guess this is a good example of how quickly they can actually move. Well, it's not looking promising here. He or she could easily be in this tree. That's the scary thing. Even though it's small, and I've had a very close look, it could still be there. Oh, no ways, we got him. He's just here, and he's a very different color. Look at this. Now you'll notice that he's definitely changed color dramatically since we last saw him. He's a lot darker now, and he has crossed the road heading towards this tree. And also you can see that they can move quite quickly. And I don't want to disturb it too much, but let's watch here. You see they can move quite quickly when they need to, but I don't want to bother it. And as soon as it gets close to this little tree, I'm sure it's going to go a green color. So it's trying its best to blend in with the ground, and as you can see, there's a lot of brown coloration in the soil. But as soon as it gets into this tree, we'll notice an immediate change. How cool is that? It was hiding from us. It was right there, right in front of us. Absolutely awesome. Well, we got lucky, and now at least you've got to see the ability of them changing color. And Virginia, with your class in Switzerland, hope you're enjoying this. We got lucky, and we're not going to go anywhere. I'm really interested now just to see it climbing up into the tree, because that's when we could expect its coloration to change quite drastically. And what I would suggest doing is trying to take some screenshots, and that way you can compare the colors as they change. Look at how awesome those toes are. 2 toes on each side. And tiny little claws, perfect for clambering up onto trees. And it's busy climbing up into a silver cluster leaf tree. And who knows, we may even hit the jackpot and see it making a kill, shooting off that sticky tongue. Well, Leon Bosman, thank you very much for sending through some really interesting info on chameleons that apparently scientists have only very recently discovered. And it's with regards to them changing color, which it's doing right now. You can see it's becoming a lot lighter in coloration, no longer needing to be dark like that dark patch of earth it was on earlier. And Leon says that the chameleons actually have small kind of crystal-like substances in their pigment cells, and depending on the density of these crystals, that is what causes the change in color spectrum. Now, what chameleons are also very, very clever at doing, and this, oh, you wouldn't believe it, there's a massive grasshopper called an elegant grasshopper just up to the right of it for him. If you just frame it, there it is. And it might try and catch this grasshopper if we're lucky. That will be phenomenal. You can see it, it's hidden by a small branch, but it's literally in line with the chameleon now. And I'm hoping that it's not, oh, there goes the grasshopper. It's called an elegant grasshopper, and elegant it is. Come on, chameleon! This will be a massive kill for it. What the chameleon's doing now is it's putting the branch of the tree directly between us and it, so that we've got even less chance of seeing it with the camouflage. You could see that elegant grasshopper was not too happy with the approaching chameleon, and this will be absolutely remarkable if we see a kill. The chameleon's tongue could reach that far, so it is in range. It might need to lean a little bit to our right, to its left, in order to get just in range, but they can shoot that tongue out about the length of their body. Come on, chameleon. Come on. It may be a little bit big, to be honest, and what may be in this elegant grasshopper's arsenal and in its favor is that because it has those very bright colorations, those are often warning signals. Just like the bright orange flap that I spoke of on this flapneck chameleon, when they get nervous, they will flare it out. And the grasshopper is no different. It doesn't need to do any flaring or changing of colors. But that aposematic coloration is going to be a warning. Bright colors in nature usually mean bad tastes. Well, Virginia, I'm very happy we raced back here. I really thought that the chameleon was going to have a shot at that little grasshopper, but now I think it's passed up the opportunity. Whether it's because of our present or because of those bright colorations, I'm not too sure, but I'm leaning towards the fact that it could well be the fact of those bright colorations. Cat and Tampa, the feed that you are watching is certainly not slow. It is the chameleon that is moving in slow motion, and an animal like this that relies on being hidden understands the benefits of moving slowly, and that's exactly what it's doing. I'm just going to creep forward a little bit just so we can show you how its colors change, and also how it is going to try and swivel around the branch again to hide from us. It's doing it literally as we drive around. So we're going to have to be quick to show the colors, because it's already going to start. You see, it's already drifting around, and look at how different its colors are now. Also, look at how awesome those little spikes are that run down the underneath of its throat, all the way down its belly. And just like that, it's got, and this is the dance move I was talking about. Oh yeah, but sadly we can't see too much of it. This is what I was hoping it was going to do when it was crossing the road earlier. Look at it looking through that tiny gap in the leaf there with its eye. Incredible. And it's swiveled around onto the other side of the branch. Now, we don't want to give it too much of a hard time, but I'm going to do one more swivel just to show you again how much the coloration has changed. Raisa, I have not ever seen a chameleon midway through shedding its skin, so can't comment on that. Oh, my door wasn't closed and then just slammed shut. Now, even though it's very difficult to see because this cunning chameleon keeps placing itself on the opposite side of the tree to us, but you can surely tell that it's changed colors drastically and is looking a lot more green than it was when it was on the ground. Cool. Well, that's Virginia and your class in Switzerland. I hope you enjoyed that, and now you know for fact that the chameleons can change color, and change color very, very quickly. It didn't take long for it to change from that dark coloration to the much lighter green that we can now see it wearing. Imagine that, you could just change your outfit on the go, depending on what you needed.
Tiny little baby elephant, only a couple of months old. For those of you who are regular viewers, the mother is the snared trunk elephant. So the elephant with only 2/3 of her trunk, and she's only just had this baby. She disappeared off for the last few months. We hadn't seen her, and when she did re-enter the scene, well done, Andrew. Andrew's actually even managed to capture that slightly shortened trunk, even though she's hiding behind the branches. But for those of you who have been watching, that's which elephant we're with. She suddenly popped up with a brand new baby. And I'm going to see, she's been so nice and obliging there, you can see what I mean. The one. And while you were with Scott and that incredible chameleon sighting, Andrew and I were just talking about baby elephants, and we were wondering whether they ever get bored, because they don't eat solid food until they're about 6 months, that they start to supplement their diet, and they'll feed for much longer than that from their mothers. We were just wondering if baby elephants ever get bored when their mothers are feeding, like when kids go with their moms to go shopping, if they have to find new and entertaining ways to keep themselves busy. And we decided that they probably don't, because they seem to be constantly exploring and putting things in their trunk and in their mouths, practicing using their trunks. I think, unfortunately, it's going to be the last view of them. This block is very, very dense. One thing that you'll notice and that's because they will almost immediately be inhabited by dung beetles. And Bill Bouquet, you were wondering how soon it will be before the dung beetles start to be attracted to them. Well, Bill, in the height of summer on a normal rainy year, we have dung beetles flying around almost constantly, and within minutes of a pile of dung actually landing, you'll find that one dung beetle has spotted it and is already zoning in. And as soon as one starts to go in, the rest of them follow. This year's been slightly different because of the fact that it's been so dry. So a lot of the dung beetles either haven't survived or have gone into a state of dormancy. You've got weird tusks, mister. Hello, boy. Hello, boy. Oh, it's a buffalo as well. Look at those tusks, though. The way that they're spread out like that. Quite long, thin tusks for a male. Very strange shape. Hear the distant rumbles of thunder as well. And we chatted about bachelor or the elephants going off on their own once they reach a certain age, if they are a male. And this is the sort of company that they then end up in. A couple of bachelor boys keeping each other company, usually in the company of one older bull, like the gentleman at the back. One or two older bulls. And the youngsters learn a little bit more about how to be a big male elephant from them. What have you spotted there, Andrew?
You can just hear a woodpecker.
You can hear a woodpecker. Oh, well done. That was incredible. Sure. Andrew's on form. And yes, to a certain degree they are. Elephants have tusks for a reason. One is defense, but most importantly, they like to use them for being able to either break off branches or dig holes in trees, or use them to lift up the bark of trees when they are desperate for the nutrients within the cambium layer. Hello, good boy. Let's see if we can get a nice view of this elephant bull. yes, to an extent, they will be disadvantaged. Not hugely, though. Not in a way that really compromises them. And they'll just have to work a little bit harder to get the nutrients they need. Now, for males, it will be more of a disadvantage than for females, because when two big male elephants really clash, when intimidation no longer works and they want to fight each other for access to females, at that point it's when they really start to struggle, and the tuskless ones won't be able to compete as effectively as the tusked males. And there are recorded cases of some of the enormous elephants that were known as the Magnificent Seven back in their day, some of the largest tuskers that Kruger has ever seen. There's one particular elephant skull there with a clear wound or clear hole in his skull that they believe came from a tusk of another elephant. So those fights, few and far between, but when they do happen, they can be very, very serious. Most of the time, though, it's pure intimidation that the elephant bulls rely on. And most young elephants know their place. They know that they've got to wait until they're a little bit older in order to be able to compete with another male. And most of the time, they are content to let that happen. You've got this incredible view of the elephant's face and those wonderful eyes of theirs with all the depth of perception that they carry. I don't know how to describe it with an elephant, but whenever you look at them deep in the eye, not to sound corny or anything, but it's very clear that there's somebody there looking back at you, if that makes sense. There's a personality and a presence there. And we've all experienced it in our time out in the bush, and usually those moments happen when they're in very close proximity. And Hannah, you were wondering whether we're ever scared that an elephant could flip the vehicle or will flip the vehicle. Distracted, he's got such beautiful eyes, they're so brown. Scared? No. That being said, they are wild animals. They demand respect, and woe betide those who don't respect them. You can hear one trumpeting off in the background. And you always treat the animals with a respect and a caution, and be aware that you will never know exactly what's been happening in their lives before you've entered a sighting. It's not unheard of for elephants to attack vehicles, and it's not unheard of for them to flip them either, but we're always exceptionally cautious. And whilst we sit in these elephant sightings and we chat through to you, we're always concentrating very, very very carefully on the different signs that perhaps we can't even explain to you necessarily. Yes, we can tell you that if an elephant comes and shakes his head at you or flaps his ears, he's trying to make himself look big and scary and warn you to go away. And that's another thing. Elephants usually warn you. We don't call them mock charges, we call them warning charges. And they're going to let you know through their body language before they straight out attack the vehicle for no reason. So it's all a matter of heeding those warnings. And whenever I've sat with elephants and they've told me to back away, if I've been able to, that's the first thing that I do. Look at his mouth. You can see the pink tongue. It's awesome the way that their mouths and their trunks and their tusks all work together to maintain, to provide them with enough food to maintain those enormous, vast bulks. Using his tusks every now and again to rip away at the branches. A big warm welcome on our cloudy, slightly drizzly sunset safari to Ethan, who is joining us. Welcome, Ethan. You were wondering if I've ever seen, on the subject of elephants charging things, if I've ever seen an elephant attack another animal. And I have. I have seen them, not necessarily full-on attack, but I have seen them chase... excuse you, mister. Their vegetative diet does tend to make them rather gassy. But yes, I've seen them chase impala, nyala. I've seen them chase birds. I've seen them chase buffalo. I haven't seen them out and out attack anything per se, but they definitely would in those cases that I've seen if they were able to catch the animal concerned, or at least I think that they might consider giving it a go. He's resting his foot on that branch. Elephants, just like people, are sometimes in a bad mood. They're bigger and stronger than anything else here. And I've seen them get a fright with things like francolin before. So the tiny little birds that you see rustling around, and actually chase those as well. I know, of course, many of us have heard of the cases, and those are exceptionally rare, where elephants have injured animals that they've caught. Something like a rhino. They have been known to kill rhino on occasion, and that, of course, that buffalo video. This is amazing. That branch is really getting in his way. He keeps propping one foot or another on it. I once saw an elephant climb up onto a fallen marula tree, 3 feet off the ground and only 1 foot balancing him. It was to try and make himself look bigger than the young male that he was fighting. Amazing how dexterous they are with those huge bulks. You'd imagine them to be quite clumsy, but they're really not. They're terribly coordinated, and their sense of the world around them is incredibly well developed. Such extraordinary miracles of nature. And such a strange concept when you think about it. This giant animal with an extended nose, teeth that have converted into tusks that stick out of their face next to their noses. Quite a strange design. As we've watched this elephant use his tusks to help him feed, and he wants to know a bit more about something we discuss every now and again, which is the fact that elephants, like people, are what can be thought of as left and right tusks. Luckily for us, Rusty decided to be obliging, so we can maybe try and get a view of this elephant's tusks, and hopefully of him using those tusks. Stop there, boy. Please stop there. It'd be very useful. I want to be able to use you as an example to answer Annie's question. So as I said, they have either left or right tusks that they prefer to use, just like we have left or right hands that we prefer to use. And that doesn't mean that they don't use both. But usually it's what's known as the slave and master. And if you look at this elephant's tusk, the right tusk is more pointed than the left tusk. And even now, he appears as if he wants to use his left tusk, there we go, to break that branch. Usually the dominant tusk, and it can be either the left or the right, is much more rounded at the tip. You also sometimes find, if it's in a particularly pronounced individual, where they only use that tusk, that they will have a deep groove rubbed into the ivory of that tusk itself. You can see it's looks like it's starting to develop on that tusk. Not all that clearly though. It's usually about 10% of the way along the tusk from the tip. It tends to be where they aim to wrap the plants around them. You don't see it in every elephant though, which tells me that some are more dominant or favor one tusk more than others do, and some are more bent towards being ambidextrous. You can see him there, always using that left tusk, and that's a combination of, it's actually thicker in this case as well, and also of course the positioning that he's in. But fascinating to think that. I wonder if we would find out if any of the other animals had that kind of left or right dominance. And I got completely distracted by the elephants, but lucky for us, I said I was on my way to check the Game Drive channel, but lucky for us, Scott is on his way to check up on that side of things as well, which is even better because he can actually travel onto Arathusa if there is something wonderful to show you. And for those of you concerned about the lion call, I can tell you that from where I heard it coming from, I suspect the noise that I heard came from Simbambili, but maybe, just maybe, those lions are going to start moving south into Arathusa. I still only heard the end part of it, so I wasn't sure if it was an elephant or a lion. Thank you, Ellies. Been very obliging. What I'd love to do for you to answer Marianne's question, and I certainly feel as though the weather's closing in on us once again. Andrew's just getting his protective rain cover skirt on. Wrapping himself up nice and gracefully. Looking good there, Andrew.
Thank you.
Helping us to protect all of our equipment against any moisture coming through. So you were wondering if there's any marula fruits in the dung, showing up in the elephant dung at the moment. And yes, lots and lots of it. Hello boy, can I come past? Would that be okay? Thank you, boy. Boy. Yes, lots of ellie dung with marula fruit in it. So for those of you unfamiliar, it is now the fruiting season of the marula trees, and the elephants and all the other animals as well, but particularly the elephants, are absolutely loving the marula fruits. It provides them with a nice change of scenery, something that tastes really nice, as well as the fact that wind is starting up again, as well as the fact that it's highly nutritious for them and carries plenty of sugar. I'm stopping to have a look, but I think I found the one elephant without marula fruit in his dung. Right, so the next pile of elephant dung, we shall find some marula fruit in there. But I have noticed lots of them, and what you'll find with elephants is the older an elephant gets, the coarser their dung is, so the bigger pieces of undigested food material you will find in them. And sometimes that actually equates even to the point of whole marula fruits, completely unchewed and undigested. I'm just going to, because I feel like I have to, I'm just going to hop out and untangle myself from the rain cover. Just have a look and see if there's maybe some marula fruits in this dung. Oh, it's gone hard already. Not that easy to break open. Nope, no marula fruits in this one. On to the next one. Obviously we found the pathway that the one elephant herd that didn't enjoy marula fruits has walked down. Oh yes, I was in the middle of explaining the amount of food content that you find within elephant dung, and I was saying that as they start to age, essentially how elephants' teeth work is they have 6 sets of molar teeth. So they've got 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and they replace those 6 times throughout their lives. And they almost work on a conveyor belt system, because as you can imagine, if an elephant eats for 18 odd hours a day to maintain its bulk, you can imagine that kind of starts to play havoc with their teeth. Eventually each set is worn down until finally they get to the last set of teeth, and they have no more to replace them. And that's actually the point at which an elephant's life starts to reach its end. And Joseph, you were wondering if I could tell you how old they can get. Sort of between 50 to 60 years old. 60 would be a very old elephant. And they've reached that point because their teeth have worn down, plus it's part of the natural aging process. And they can't chew their food as well, so they can't actually get the nutrition that they need out of it. And they'll start to slowly lose condition, become a little bit thin, get thinner every day, until eventually what happens is they move down to the rivers, because that's where they can find soft food, soft reeds, something like that for them to snack on. And when they get to that point, that's actually what's led to these rumors of an elephant graveyard, or the fact that elephants all go to the same place to die. One of the possible explanations behind that. That's because when rivers, the old elephants congregate around rivers, and they very often die there. And then when rivers flood, they tend to deposit the heavy material as soon as they hit the sort of first floodplain bend around the corner. And Marianne, I'm now scanning every single pile of elephant dung that I can find. Alrighty, well, while I continue on my search for elephant dung with marula fruit in it and all kinds of other magical things, let's pop over to Scott so he can give you an actual update on that lion sound that we heard.
So, sadly, the Nkahuma pride of 5 lioness are still sleeping on the right-hand side of this road, and this is our boundary. We're allowed to play on the left, but we are not allowed to play on the right. But there is a chance that they could come back, and I'm just wanting to drive past and see exactly how close they are. I'm guessing we are going to actually be able to see the other game drive vehicles from the road, and it's just nice to get our own analysis of the situation rather than relying on the radio, which can sometimes be a little bit misleading with regards to how far away they are exactly from this boundary road and what they are up to exactly. So, let's see if we don't get lucky. It's quite nice, but it's a lot darker than normal this evening, and that's due to all the cloud cover. The line is somewhere just off to our right. You can see a lot of vehicle tracks heading off the road here. So they're somewhere not far in this bush to our right hand side, but sadly not close enough for us to even see a vehicle there. I know there are 1 or 2 vehicles with them. So it may be that we have to return in the morning with the hope that they will have come back. Oh well, we tried, and let's continue on now and see what else we can find. To Michael, who has been following safari life for over a year now and has also been out to Djuma on safari, but has yet to ever lay eyes on a white lion, and is wondering if I've ever been lucky enough to see one, and also if they ever lived to adulthood in the wild. And I've only seen one on one occasion, and if you check out my Instagram page, Scotty D Safari, you'll be able to find it somewhere in amongst all those posts. So yes, I have seen one in an area called the Timbavati, which is very close to us, just a little bit north of here. And that area is renowned for possessing that white lion gene, the recessive gene that gives the white lions their coloration. And there's currently 2 lionesses in the Timbavati with that white coloration, And there's also two further east in the Kruger National Park, in the Nwanetsi area, which is east of Satara. There's a male, I think it's just on a year of age now, and I think the young lioness that was slightly younger than him may have died quite recently. But those two are part of a mega pride called the Mountain Pride, and there are currently, well, roughly 40 lions in that pride, most of which are cubs, so that doesn't really count because only an adult lion counts. But there are 4 that are known of in the Greater Kruger National Park living in the wild as it stands. And the individual that I saw was an adult lioness, and she had a slightly younger, or there was a slightly younger lioness also within that pride. I think that part of the giraffe pride is the name of that pride in the Timbavati. So yes, they can live to adulthood, but it's not common for them to do so. And I don't think it's ever been documented actually of an adult male white lion living in the wild. So the one that is in the Nwanetsi concession in a beautiful, beautiful area where I actually used to work and spend time with that mountain pride. Yeah, that could be the first white lion to live to adulthood. He's doing well. He's got through the most dangerous stage, the first year of his life. So hopefully that will continue. And Gracie, who's just 8 years old, and hello Gracie, nice to know you watching. Gracie watches a lot of our safaris, so she's becoming very, very clever with regards to what happens on safari, and she's now wanting to know if she's going to be able to milk some extra information from the other guides, like my friend Brett, who's going to be coming tomorrow and taking a drive on Wednesday morning. He's going to be a great guy to ask about white lions, Gracie. So I hope you'll be able to join in the sunrise safari when he's going to be taking a drive. But if not, I'll make sure I ask as many questions about the white lions as I can. He spends a lot of time in the Timbavati viewing the giraffe pride and the white lions within it. And we're actually hoping to go on holiday together and spend a couple of nights with the mountain pride in the Nwanetsi concession. So hopefully we'll be doing that in February and we'll be able to go and see that mega pride. So that's a plan that I discussed with him today, and it'll be really exciting for me to go back and not only see those lions, but to see what is one of the most beautiful concessions that I've seen in the Greater Kruger National Park. It is wonderful, the Nwanetsi concession. 15,000 hectares for one lodge to explore on their own, and that's the kind of freedom you want when you are on a safari. Alright, well, we're going to turn off this long boundary road and see if we can't rustle up Karula somewhere in this area. A female leopard. Hello, Chilla Edwards. He sounds to be like a new viewer. I haven't heard your name before, Chilla, and welcome. It's great to have you with us. You would like to know if I've ever seen a lion fight in the flesh, and I caught the back end of one, interestingly enough, on that same concession I've just been talking about in the Nwanetsi area, which is not too far from here. It's probably about 50 miles as the crow flies. And I saw a few big males chasing off their younger sons who were beginning to cause a bit of trouble, and it was time for them to leave home. So I saw some big males running after their sons that they'd chased off, roaring, ooh, ooh, on full gallop after their sons that they were teaching a lesson. But didn't see the actual major skirmish. And then on one other occasion I've come across two prides of lioness and young males that had an altercation. But it was quite a while back, and I haven't been in the right place at the right time to see either lions skirmish and or leopards, and that's after spending a lot of hours in and amongst these animals. So I'm waiting to cash in on the lucky day there. Chilla Edwards. In the year that I've been here, or just over a year now with Safari Live, we also haven't been fortunate to capture any major fights amongst the animals. The closest we've come to it was actually a bit of a letdown. We had two big male leopards, one called Tingana and one called Anderson. Tingana we see fairly regularly, and he's pushed into Djuma over the last kind of 6 months, and he's been pushed by the Anderson male, which is further to the west away from us. And the two of them were lying 20 meters away from one another, but when it was our time to join the sighting, Tingana was just letting off a low, almost inaudible growl at Anderson, and there was no major commotion or arguing and or even fighting. But the lesson, Chilla Edwards, from all of this is that animals don't fight as often as you would presume them to, and just like humans, they will discuss things in a fairly civilized manner before coming to blows. And for the leopards, they'll be pacing up and down next to one another, letting off their loud, rasping call, and they'll ping-pong, taking turns to shout louder at one another, and obviously discussing certain things, agreeing on various terms and conditions, but they don't very often come to blows. So we'll have to keep trying, keep coming out every day, and eventually we will capture those moments of brilliance. Speaking of territories and leopards, this is actually a buffer zone between two female leopardess, Karula and Shadow, a mother and a daughter, so we could bump into either one of the two. To Aqua, who would like to know if we see any melanistic animals here on Djuma. And for those of you who don't know what melanistic is, it's basically the opposite of a white line, which you would call leucistic, meaning a pale gene, and melanistic, meaning a dark gene. And sadly, no, okay, no, I lie. We get a few melanistic birds. The melanistic gabar goshawk comes to mind. So you see fairly every now and then you can see some melanistic birds. There'll be more that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but the gabar goshawk was usually grey, can sometimes be pitch black. But with regards to mammals, no, we're not in the right spot for that. One area in Africa that I know is well renowned for melanistic animals is the Aberdare mountain range in Kenya, where I've been lucky enough to see many different black serval or melanistic serval, probably 5 or 6 different sightings. Once I missed a melanistic genet, which would have been cool. We had got stuck up in this quite remote national park with not many people. It's not busy, and what's interesting, somebody's trying to get a hold of me quickly. Go ahead, Craig. Could be an interesting update, but it's not. He's just asking about the Nkuhuma lioness. Unfortunately not, Craig. They are still on Sibambili, about 50 or 60 meters west of Triple M North. So where was I going? Oh, we had been stuck up. It wasn't very, not a very busy national park. There's no cell phone signal up there, and we had got the vehicle stuck in the mud. And the wonderful thing about this national park is even though there's leopard, wild dog, bongo, and incredible antelope that I've yet to see, but they're there, buffalo, elephants, everything really other than lion, you're allowed to go walking and trout fishing in the streams, which is epic, as I love fishing and I love wildlife, and if you can do the two in the same place, then you're winning. So we had been out fishing and we had got stuck. It was late at night. We begged and pleaded the wardens to let us out the reserve after regulation time. We were supposed to be out before sunset if we weren't camping. And I was desperately trying to get a hold of my friend's parents to tell them we were on our way back home and everything was safe. We were still alive. And while I had my head down on the cell phone, a melanistic genet crossed the road. So I missed the melanistic genet, but got melanistic serval. Interestingly enough, I've taken my friend Brett on a trip to the Aberdares. He was managing a camp in Tanzania and had a short break and came and visited me up in Kenya, and we went exploring, and we were sitting up late one night sipping on a fine whiskey, and it was actually drizzling. The Aberdeen Mountains range is kind of very similar terrain to Scottish Highlands, I'm told. A lot of tundra and a lot of misty, wet weather. And we were literally sitting in the mist outside of our campsite, sipping on our beverages, and a melanistic serval walked on the green grass straight in front of us, and followed by its mother. It was the youngster actually, and its mother, which was fully grown, came out in front. So it was a regular mother and a melanistic sub-adult. So happy memories with Brett in the Aberdares with melanistic animals. There are reports of some being seen in South Africa, in the Waterberg area, but I'm not convinced. I haven't seen enough photographic evidence of what's going on there. So they very seldomly get seen, melanistic leopard, but there are rumors of them. More commonly you get the leucistic leopards, the very pale form of a leopard, also known as a strawberry leopard. You can still see the spots. It's not pure white, but it's certainly a much lighter shade than normal. So there we go, aqua. I rambled on for a bit, but essentially no, we don't get melanistic mammals here. Okay, well, we're going to send you back to Jamie for an update on how her evening's coming along, and we will see you a bit later.
Thinking. I've been looking in every pile of elephant poo that I can find, and I still haven't found a marula fruit. And my only explanation for this ridiculous phenomenon is that the squirrels have been very busy at some point today, and maybe the monkeys as well, plucking marula fruit from the elephant dung and consuming it, which of course they do, which is my only plausible explanation, because I promise you this morning when I looked at elephant dung, at least one in every pile had at least one marula fruit. And somehow we seem to be avoiding them this afternoon or this evening. In the evening time, we're looking for all manner of extraordinary creatures, including bush babies and honey badgers, even an aardvark, dare I say it. But in a broader question, the socially awkward girl would like to know what animal is our favorite to see on drive. Well, for one socially awkward girl to another, it's a tough one. I love sitting with Ellies like we did this afternoon. I always find that a special experience, especially when they are so focused on what they're doing that it's like you don't even matter to them. We're just sitting as part of their world, not interacting with them, just chatting, watching them feed. It's always one of my favorites. Wild dogs are terribly exciting, and I can't choose one. Sure. Try to think of an unusual one. Obviously, the sights that we see that are particularly unusual is that we don't see them that often. Those are the really, really exciting moments, and it doesn't have to be one of the big five, although those can also be incredibly interesting and awesome. But something that we don't see often, something like a honey badger or a porcupine even. Andrew's checking up in the trees, presumably for something like a bush baby. I don't know, Andrew, have you got any favorite animals to see on drive?
Just elephants, but I love them all.
Yeah, I love them all. So I couldn't possibly choose. Any kind of sighting that is, I don't know, any sighting is special. Whether it's an insect, whether it's chameleon, like the one that Scott had earlier. It's too difficult for me to choose, and I'm sorry, because I know that is such a cop-out. And then rhino. Okay, no, I have an answer for you. Black rhino. My hands down favorite animal to see on a drive. It's our Wild Earth policy that we don't no longer show rhino. Oh, just is it the bird?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to settle. Sorry, Andrew. So we don't show the rhino because of the ever-increasing poaching problem. Just on the off chance that we would make a poacher's life or somebody involved in poaching easier. Oh, and I think we're going to come around. We've had a very similar idea to Mr. Scott Dyson. There could be an encounter at any moment now. But yes, seeing black rhino, I find them entertaining. They're characters. They are always full of spirit. Okay, there you go. That's my answer. But that was a difficult question. It's always a difficult question, that particular one. Tim thinks that I'm addicted to poo, and that there are people, he'd like me to know that there are people out there that I could talk to about my addiction. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your advice. And of course, the first step to recovery is acceptance of the problem. Unfortunately, that is where we encounter our first setback in my road to recovery. The reason that I'm so obsessed with poo, in a very crazy way, I don't think I'm completely obsessed with poo. I just like the bush. And the poo is like one part of the story. It's almost like the written word of the bush. It's the evidence that animals leave behind. And looking at their dung can tell you so much. It can tell you when they were there, what they were eating, how their digestive systems work. And it provides for many happy memories within my childhood, if I'm honest. You haven't lived until you've played a game of dodgeball with elephant dung in a dry river, sprinting up and down like a mad person. But yes, maybe we have focused slightly too much on dung. But I'm being serious. There's something of value to be gained, just in the same way there's value to be gained from looking at the smaller stuff and the tracks that are left behind. I have learned more from examination. When I think about my training that I did, I learned more in the week that we focused on tracking, and tracking includes dung. You can't just look at the footprints in the sand, you've got to look at the bigger picture, than I did probably in any other part of my training course. You can learn about the animal's behavior from tracking, you can learn about their movements, about the paths that they use. If you stop and look at dung, you might start to see a pattern, like with hyena scat. Now we know that the boundaries of the hyena clan territory is around Triple M and Parallel Road on Arathusa. That's from looking at the end products of the digestive process of all animal species out here. And it becomes more fascinating when you throw birds and reptiles in and their way of reabsorbing as much water as possible. Well, let's find a nice view in this thick bush of, oops, watch the camera. Hold on, Andrew. As the evening starts to come to a close, and I'm going to try and find Andrew a nice spot where he can look back at the clouds. The skies are darkening, clouds are building, and it has been another wonderful afternoon. At least we had plenty of rain, which has fed the thirsty earth. The thunder's rumbling already. And it has been a wonderful afternoon to have spent in the company of all of you. Thank you as well to Andrew, who has been a fantastic cameraman this afternoon, as well as his ever-present good company. Thank you as well to Scott for his fantastic job and the ladies in FC. I will see you all for the sunrise safari tomorrow morning. Goodbye for now. Cheers.
Okay, so you may have seen some lights as you drove past our vehicle back there. I was checking an old scorpion burrow, hoping that we were going to find it doing some housekeeping after the rains, but it appears like it's completely moved out and found a home elsewhere. No evidence of it still being there. Hello Matty, and I was checking for those scorpions just for you actually, so happy that you're watching, and I'm sorry I couldn't find you any. And the chameleons, no, they will not shine and glow like the scorpions do under a UV light. So the scorpion is the only animal that I know of that does that. So unless we discover some more, it's just the scorpions we're going to be able to look for with that special torch. And hopefully once we start heading out a little bit later, we will get lucky and find you some more scorpions, Matty. Well everyone, thank you very much for joining in. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves, especially to the new viewers. It's always great to have new viewers on board with us. And thank you for letting us know your thoughts, comments and questions all along the way. We're going to call it a day, and well done VM on camera, to Kirsty who directed the show, Nikki lending her a hand. We are going to let you listen to the frogs for the last few seconds. Goodbye.